Welcome, everybody. September the 28th edition of Webb Weekly Live as we roll towards October.
Yeah, I can't believe how fast the summer passed and how fast September passed, and time's just going way too quickly.
Always good to see you, Steph.
It's good to see you too. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. Beautiful,
Good.
beautiful autumn morning. So,
Yeah,
and we're in autumn now officially, right?
absolutely.
So I can say that. Hey, we got a lot going on. I'll let you get right after it.
Yeah, we do. The big thing is our cover story on the Williamsport Symphony Orchestra. Lou's got a nice little history. Their concert season kicks off on October 18th, but we wanted to make sure everybody had all of the details early. So he's got a great story on that.
So you're trying to give me a little culture.
A little culture. I mean, I'm not going to make you read a book yet, but, maybe get out, see a show this year. We have a really great kids craft that teaches you how to make this cute little pumpkin out of leftover dryer vent pieces.
Oh, I like those things you do.
Yeah, those little kids corners, they're great.
They're cool. I
And
enjoy that.
it's really simple. It's quick to put together, so you could do a bunch of them to set around the house for fall and Halloween.
Now,
so.
for those of you that don't know that, is the symphony more towards my liking or is the kids' crafts?
I'm thinking you're probably leaning more towards the kids' crafts.
I think you're probably right. Anyway.
The other big thing in this week's issue is our fall hunting, fishing, and outdoors section, which I know is right up your alley.
There we go.
We got some great stories. Mike O'Brien talks about fall fishing opportunities, and Ken Hunter, instead of doing fishing or buck season opening, he's taking on pheasant hunting.
I love pheasant hunting, and actually we're going to talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah, and then the other big thing is, of course, our big buck contest starts.
Our Webb Weekly Big Buck, and I mean, we get monsters.
Yeah, we do, and we had a great turnout last year, and I can't wait to see what comes in this year. We got some great prizes, but I'm not so familiar with rifles, so you're going to have to tell me what the prizes are.
So anyway, we started last year. You don't have to shoot the biggest buck. You just have to shoot a buck, and you can go to the country store. You can go to Powell's Taxidermy. You can register to win a Remington rifle. We let you pick the caliber. Easy contest, and I dress it out. It can never. We do a case. We do a scope. We do a sling. I make sure you. Last year, a young man won it, and I can't think of his name, but I think he was 12, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was right around that age.
Right around that age, and he chose a youth model. And we'll make sure whoever wins. So get out, shoot a buck during archery, get it registered. It's a fun time of year, and I actually enjoy taking the time to go around, because when I get big bucks in, Tommy Springman will call me, or Dana past Taxidermy, and tell me. So I get to go up and preview them.
And I just like any Webb Weekly contest where someone else does all the legwork. So Ron Mingle does a great job keeping everything straight. It's a lot to keep straight. There's a lot of entries coming in.
Absolutely, and let's give a shout out to Ron Mingle. He's been doing it. He's been in sales here at the Webb Weekly. Does a great job for us. He's been here 14 years now, I believe. And he heads up the Big Buck contest, and it's a lot of work.
It is, so that's great for him.
And thanks to our sponsors, Powell's Taxidermy, and Sauer's Gun up the street here, and of course the Country Store Venison Processing.
So check it out. Check out all the details inside the hunting, fishing, and outdoors section.
Absolutely.
So speaking of pheasant hunting, you also have an announcement for us.
Yeah, excuse me. My Second Amendment mug. Pretty good lead in.
Yeah,
huh?
absolutely.
Why, we wanted to do something for veterans, for servicemen and women that may have been injured since 9/11 attacks on our country, and I wanted to do something different. And as we're moving along here towards Veterans Day, I came up with an idea, and everybody seemed to like it. We're going to have any veteran that's been wounded can call in the Webb Weekly, and we'll get you registered. We're going to do a luncheon and a pheasant hunt down at Nightingale Hunting Preserve. We're going to do it on Veterans Day, and we'll give it all the details as they come. I talk about it in my article here. No questions asked, and I know some folks might not want to call and get registered, but if you know somebody that this would apply to, and Steph, I don't know, I'm not a politically correct person, but I'll just say it, no matter how they've been injured or what's happened to them, we will make sure we take care of them that day.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they get fed, and we'll have an opportunity if they'd like to shoot pheasants, and we might do some clay birds too for them. So
yeah, I think that's great. Get out, have a little fun, a little camaraderie with fellow veterans. I think it'll be a really nice day for everyone.
Absolutely,
so.
And that's we'll talk about that more as we go along. But we got a big show today here, so I
Yes,
better
so I need to give away your stuff.
give it away.
And then get to our interview. So we're doing our interview with District Attorney Eric LINHARDT.
Okay, the
But we know
DA.
that he does not work alone.
Okay.
He's got a lot of help in his office. So how many assistant district attorneys does Lycoming County have? Up for grabs is a $25 gift card to Pudgy's Pizza. Answer below. How many assistant district attorneys does Lycoming County have?
And again, Steph, you come up with great questions. I have no idea.
And I was a little surprised at how big the number was.
I was trying to think
so-
about my Law and Order episodes I watch and how many New York City has, but I didn't come into me. So, great question, and I guess that's a great lead in for us. We're going to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go over and we're going to sit down with our District Attorney Eric LINHARDT, and we're going to talk about what's going on in our area.
Yep, absolutely.
So. We're going to take a commercial break for Van Campens. Great deals, 20% off trucks. Go see them, and when you come back, we'll be with our good DA. Thank you.
When you're talking about buying a new vehicle, you're talking Van Campen. We make buying your new car awesome, and that's why Van Campen's been selling new vehicles longer than any other dealer in the area. Find your new Dodge, get your new Chrysler, enjoy your new Jeep, and drive home your new Ram. Visit us online at vancampenmotors.net. When you're talking cars, you're talking Van Campen.
And we're here at the Lycoming County Courthouse, and District Attorney Eric LINHARDT. DA LINHARDT, good to see you. Thanks
Good
for
to see
having
you,
us.
Jim. Thanks for being
Of course,
here.
my sidekick, Steph.
It's nice
Hi,
to see you.
Steph.
She
Good to
makes
see
sure
you
I
again.
stay out of trouble, and you know how that goes. We have so much we can talk about, and I wouldn't want your job. There's two jobs I wouldn't want. I told you the other week. One is yours, and one is Coroner Kiesling's.
Right.
I'm not interested in either one of those, but we have so much to talk about in reference to what you do, and it all comes back to heroin.
Yep.
It all comes back to heroin. Steph, I know that's been something you've done some feature stories on, and I'll let you get into that with the DA here if you'd like.
Yeah, it was actually about 3 years ago. We sat down and talked about it when it really first started coming to the surface that there was this huge underlying problem, not just in the city or the county or the state, but really coming to a head in the country. And I saw your press conference the other day, and you said that U.S. heroin addicts are up 75% from 5 years ago. That's a
right.
huge problem in our country, but we're making efforts in the county to make that a little bit better, to do what we can. And you recently started a joint effort with Project Bald Eagle, which is doing great things in the community for opiate and heroin abuse, along with the Williamsport Police Department.
Right.
So why don't you tell us about this treatment referral program?
Yeah, look, there's a number of things that's important to understand. The heroin problem that we're facing is not just a local problem. It's a problem that's impacted the entire state and the entire country. It is clearly the worst heroin epidemic that we've ever faced as a nation. Right now, we have in our country between 300,000 and 500,000 heroin addicts. That is up 75% from where it was just 5 years ago. So it's not only a local problem. But the way that we have to address it really requires that we emphasize and work cooperatively with our treatment providers and our law enforcement providers and our court system across 5 main areas. So when we talk about addressing the heroin problem, whether it's locally or across the country, we're talking about placing emphasis on education and prevention. We're talking about putting emphasis on treatment, drug prescription monitoring, proper disposal of medication, and continued tough law enforcement efforts. And those are the areas that all of us who are working here locally continue to emphasize. So you mentioned the law enforcement referral program, which is something that we've just started here locally with Project Bald Eagle and our Williamsport City Police Department. So I want to tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, please tell us the details.
So all of us in law enforcement recognize that getting the drug addicted into effective, immediate treatment was an important goal for us. So it wasn't only a goal of our treatment providers, but it's also a goal of our law enforcement officers. And the frustration that we had, that our law enforcement officers had, is that when they had an encounter with a police encounter with an individual who was obviously heroin addicted, most often they're facing nonviolent misdemeanor offense, possession of heroin or
Sure.
paraphernalia, something like that. And so they would file criminal charges against that individual, and then they would start to work their way through the system. So they would wait oftentimes weeks before their first scheduled preliminary hearing before the district magistrate. They would wait weeks longer for that until their formal court arraignment, and often there would be delays of upwards of 6 months before they finally met with a probation officer and then got referred into the much-needed
Into the
treatment
program.
that everybody agrees that they
Gotcha.
need. And every day during that 6 months period, that individual was using heroin, putting themselves at risk and putting the community at risk. And so we sat down with Project Bald Eagle and our Williamsport Police Department, which is our largest police department
Absolutely.
outside Troop F from Montoursville, to try to find ways to fast track these individuals into much needed treatment. And so we came up with this law enforcement referral program. And the way it works is that on the night of the police encounter, on the night of this individual's arrest, the law enforcement officer can make a referral to a certified recovery specialist, so that certified recovery specialist can reach out to that individual and try to immediately work with them to immediately get them into the much needed treatment. So the treatment starts
Right away.
from day one,
Yeah.
while the case works its way through the system.
Fantastic.
So let's talk about these certified recovery specialists. There are 12 in the county, correct?
There are 11 or 12, I believe you're right. I think there are 12 now certified recovery specialists in the county.
And how did they go about getting certified?
Right, so that was a project of, an initiative of Project Bald Eagle that put these individuals through their necessary training and certification, and now is working with them to get them placed in employment in our local treatment provider agencies that we have here in the county.
Yeah, I think that's great, and this sounds like this program has a lot of potential to cut, things off at the pass. You said, there's a 6 month wait between, hearing from arrest to probation.
To
That's
treatment.
also a lot of time to get back into a habit, be rearrested before you're.
Sure, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about our drug addicted, right, or our alcohol addicted.
Sure.
So, we deal with enormous recidivism rates when we're dealing with people who have an underlying drug problem. And so addressing the problem isn't something new for our county. We've had, with Judge Butts, our drug treatment court programs for more than a decade. And the point of our treatment court programs has always been and continues to be identifying those individuals who find themselves in trouble with the law solely because of a drug or alcohol problem. And we get them into the treatment that they need so we don't see them back in the system committing new crimes.
Absolutely, and I mean, long time coming. Sounds like a great program, and it takes time. But the one thing that gets lost is it's just not heroin, you said, and the opioids that we talked about, but the prescription drug problem, all the problems that go along. Does this program affect those also? I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
Or
Look,
does
when
there
we
have
talk-
to obviously be a
Yeah.
crime committed for them to get in?
Yeah, those are great questions. And so it's important for the community to understand that when we're talking about the heroin problem, we're
Right.
talking about an opioid prescription problem. Because the truth of the matter is, the heroin problem is just a symptom
Right.
of the underlying opioid prescription problem. And so the truth of the matter is 80% of the individuals who are now using and abusing heroin started with the abuse of their prescription pain medication.
Amazing, terribly amazing. I mean, in a bad way. But
Yeah.
what about the person that doesn't get caught up in the system of justice, so to speak? Program's great. Get arrested, can start treatment day one.
Sure.
What's the message to them if somebody has a real issue or problem? Obviously, they have to come forward, or somebody has to come forward. If JQ Public comes forward and says, my son's a heroin addict and I need help, he comes to you. Is there anything legally that you can do to get him into the program?
Yeah, sure. Look, this isn't anything new. Certainly, even in individuals who don't have police encounter,
Right,
but feel
that's-
that they're at the point where they need help. West Branch is here in the community for those individuals. And a significant number of those individuals who are now getting help through West Branch or several of our other treatment providers are individuals who came forward without getting themselves involved in the criminal justice system at all. Unfortunately, those who are seriously addicted to heroin are committing crimes every day. And so they should expect, and we should all expect, that those individuals have routine and regular contacts with law enforcement because
Sure.
they're going to be committing crimes to support their habit.
Gotcha. Hey, we got to take a commercial break here for our friends at Van Camp, and then we'll be right back.
When you're talking about buying a new vehicle, you're talking Van Campen. We make buying your new car awesome, and that's why Van Campen's been selling new vehicles longer than any other dealer in the area. Find your new Dodge, get your new Chrysler, enjoy your new Jeep, and drive home your new Ram. Visit us online at vancampenmotors.net. When you're talking cars, you're talking Van Campen.
And we're back with the DA, and a couple of things there. I mean, we have the drug addicted that obviously we're talking about. And I know people that haven't, first of all, it affects a lot more families than anybody wants to admit. But people don't understand, especially with heroin, the power of the addiction. You know, just get help, just get treatment, just go cold turkey. It just doesn't work that way. And parents out there, I mean, I know the pain. I've talked to parents. I mean, we have parents in every professional business type that have lost kids to heroin in our area.
Sure.
So what can a parent do? I know they can't come to local police and say, my son's doing heroin. If a parent, and I'm saying this to you parents, I mean, you're going to have to take some drastic measures, and maybe you don't want to, but what can a parent do to go to law enforcement that actually forces them to arrest their son or daughter, but it gets them into a program to hopefully save their life?
Yeah, look, the emphasis clearly for those who are drug addicted, right? So we're not talking about our drug dealers or our drug
No,
traffickers.
the drug addicted.
Right, we're talking about our drug addicted population. And so there is not in our community, and we live thankfully in a small community, but there is not anyone in our community who does not know or has not been personally touched by this drug addiction. That's just a fact. And so parents who struggle with this with their own children who are seeking help, I would urge them to contact West Branch to try to get their kids.
And I understand that, but
Right.
a lot of times, no matter what they say to their children, they're not going to West Branch. No matter what intervention they do, they're not going to West Branch. There comes a point where a parent feels helpless. Is there anything they can do
Yeah,
to force?
and, that's an excellent. It's an excellent point for this reason. We try desperately to get people voluntarily into treatment, and sometimes we're able to do that
Right.
with success. And it's a rocky road, even for those who are ultimately successful, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But once individuals come into the criminal justice system, the treatment becomes mandatory for them,
Right.
right? It becomes
Absolutely.
a condition of their
Yeah.
supervision. It's something that a judge is going to require that they do. And so for some parents, they will reach out to law enforcement and indicate to them, look, my son's, committing crimes, and they've stolen my jewelry. They've misused my credit card. They've burglarized,
they have to have
grandma's
those
home.
magic words. Is it probable cause? They have to have something
Sure.
to trigger
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, we deal with it. We deal with it quite a bit. Oftentimes, when we're dealing with the drug addicted, the victims of their addiction are their family and the people that are closest to them and who they love.
That
right?
was one of the big things that I found doing my research a couple of years ago is a lot of what is happening, particularly in the early stages of addiction, is it's taking drugs from, friends and family and grandparents, and that's why the proper drug disposal is so important, and the stealing from family, jewelry here, electronics there. And I think that it's really important to get ahead of that.
Sure.
So if it means getting law enforcement involved, no one wants to have their child arrested. But if it cuts off addiction at the pass and it helps to get them into treatment that much sooner, then it's worth the penalty.
And you made the point when we were off camera that a parent just can't say my son's a heroin addict and the police get involved. There has to be a reason. Drug paraphernalia is what you said, that they have to.
Yeah, the police will get involved once a crime.
Once a crime is committed, and I think
committed.
the public need to understand. Other than that, it's private treatment, and eventually, unfortunately, they come to you as criminals. But we tried, you know, some parents I just have talked to and they've cried on my shoulder about, you know, how hard it is to get them to go to voluntary treatment. Steph, I know you, and I'll let you talk with the DA about this. Then we get into our actual criminal activity. And I'll kick that over to you to talk. Now, we're not talking about the addicted, we're going to the criminals and how it's big business. It is big business providing whatever drug to an addict. And I'll kick that.
Trafficking is a huge problem. You know, you've got the drugs coming into the country and then in the state, and we live in a pretty big corridor, from what I understand, between the Philadelphia area and into New York. What kind of impact is trafficking having on the area and the state?
Well, there's a number of important things that we need to understand when we're having this conversation about drug traffickers. So, you know, we talk about and we all accept the importance of education and prevention and treatment and drug monitoring and proper drug disposal and addressing the drug addiction problem. But the truth of the matter is that law enforcement is an important part of that, and fully funding our law enforcement officers is essential if we're going to adequately address the problem. Right now in our county, you know, we have a population of just over 100,000 individuals in our county. 80% of all of the crimes that we deal with in our county are drug related.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I have only 12 officers who are full-time narcotics officers in this county. I could use 3 times that many. Right now, the way our sentencing guidelines are written, a heroin dealer who does not have a significant criminal history is facing only 3 to 12 months at our county work release within the sentencing guidelines. So that doesn't give adequate, you know, reprieve to the neighborhood, right? Because he's going to get out. So
he's right back out. And
he's
let's
gonna
make it clear here, not to confuse, and I know you're not, but we're talking about the people that are approaching heroin as a business, not the people using heroin here. Because most of the people approaching in a business, the drug dealers, they don't use heroin, do they?
So most of the heroin dealers are not using heroin. And what's interesting is how different it is when we were dealing with our cocaine epidemic in the 80s and 90s, where many of them were dealing cocaine to support their habit.
Absolutely.
So many of our heroin traffickers know not to use the heroin because they recognize how deadly it is. They're peddling the poison purely for profit.
Yeah, folks, you got a problem when even your drug dealers won't use the drug. You know, that's a big indication of just how dangerous of a drug this is when even the people peddling it aren't willing to use it.
Our drug dealers in this community are coming to us primarily from Philadelphia, the Bronx, and Newark, New Jersey. And so because of our geographic location, we've become a hub for north central Pennsylvania for this drug trafficking. So heroin addicts who live up in Wellsboro or down in Sunbury or in Lock Haven will travel to Williamsport to purchase their heroin because they can purchase it here so much more cheaply at $10 a bag.
Absolutely. And you beat me to it. The cost of heroin, go ahead, tell everybody. It's the cheapest.
Sure, you can buy a bag of heroin for as cheap as $10 a bag.
And let's go back to the opioids, the pills, the painkillers. I mean, I don't know, and I'm putting you on the spot. What's the cost of a prescription painkiller?
Well,
A lot more than heroin. I mean,
it is a lot more than heroin if you're going to buy prescription pain medication on the street, and it's why having the medical community involved in this conversation is so important, because so much of it starts with our physicians and our dentists prescribing this pain medication. And so it's important to understand that prescription pain medication is an important and vital medication for legitimate pain. And so everybody in the system recognizes that. But it needs to be prescribed responsibly. And we also need to understand its addictive nature. So that doesn't mean that an individual who's on prescription medication is abusing their prescription medication. There are plenty of people who are on prescription medications who use it as prescribed without
Sure.
abusing it. The problem is that once they've become physically addicted to it because they've been legitimately prescribed it for a period of time, then the medical community also has an ethical responsibility when they no longer need it to wean them off the medication so that they can address their addiction. And what happens oftentimes is we have individuals who have legitimate pain prescription medications who are irresponsibly cut off from their medication and then are forced to deal with their addiction by buying heroin or pills out on the street.
And you never know what you're getting when you're buying from off the street. It's a dangerous,
Russian
situation.
roulette.
It's not only dangerous, it's deadly,
Yes.
right?
It's deadly,
And so
absolutely.
a lot of our heroin is mixed with fentanyl, for example, which is a very powerful poison. And, recently we were dealing with heroin that was almost entirely fentanyl, not heroin at all. And the result is fatal overdose.
I actually just lost a family member to an Oxycontin and fentanyl overdose. And no family should have to go through that.
No. We got to take a quick commercial break. Good friends at Van Campen's, Josh and the gang. Great trucks, great service, and we'll be right back with some closing thoughts with the DA.
When you're talking about buying a new vehicle, you're talking Van Campen. We make buying your new car awesome. And that's why Van Campen's been selling new vehicles longer than any other dealer in the area. Find your new Dodge, get your new Chrysler, enjoy your new Jeep, and drive home your new Ram. Visit us online at vancampenmotors.net. When you're talking cars, you're talking Van Campen.
Hey, we're back to close it up with DA Eric LINHARDT. We could talk for hours about this problem and issue, but a couple points I want to make, and I'll let you and Steph. 80% of the crime in Lycoming County created by drug problems, okay? This fallacy that we're not hard on people that commit crimes based on drugs. We just tried to separate them, that we have addicts that truly have a problem, and even though they might do some crime, it's usually directed at the family, theft. And then we have true hardcore drug dealers, murderers that are created out of this. And I know you, and I'm going to be simple here. You'll drop the hammer on them. You'll put them away as long as you can. Just jump in on that. And again, I'll let Steph, and we'll get back and cover this more. But
Yeah, look, it's important to understand when we have this conversation about how we're not going to incarcerate our way out of this problem, that we need to put a greater emphasis on treatment. Nobody in law enforcement disagrees that those who find themselves in trouble with the law because of their addiction need to be addressed with treatment. But there's a whole other dangerous population out there of
Absolutely.
drug traffickers, right, who are peddling their poison for profit, who are in fact violent offenders.
Yeah.
And those people need to be jailed, and they need to be jailed for as long as possible. And my frustration is that when we have this conversation more on a national level than we do here locally, that we broadly describe these drug dealers as nonviolent offenders. And we're releasing them by the hundreds, for example, recently from our federal prisons. These are not nonviolent offenders. You don't need to look any further than somebody, a family member, right? A mother or father who's had to
Absolutely.
bury their child from a heroin overdose to know that this is in fact a violent offense. Drug dealers, drug dealing by its nature is a violent offense. 90% of the violence that we deal with in this community is drug related. Nearly every homicide that we deal with in this community is drug related. Drug dealing is clearly a violent offense.
and the key word you said, it's a poison. No matter how, they aren't giving somebody a gun, but they are providing a poison that becomes an addiction and ends their life. And it's hard. And I understand, and a lot of older members of the community have a hard time differentiating that, but I think that was well said. Steph, you
Yeah,
have anything?
absolutely. And I think it's just always important to remember as parents to talk to your kids, have open and very frank discussions about the dangers of heroin and drug abuse, and make sure you know what's going on in your own home as far as your own prescription medications. There are drop boxes all over the county in the police department and in the courthouse and in sheriff's office that you can drop your prescription medications in, and they will be disposed of properly. But like I said, it's really important to talk to your kids and know, you know, who they're spending time with, what they're doing with their time, and make sure that they completely understand the dangers of opiate abuse and heroin abuse, even if it has to be ugly. It's worth it if it saves their life.
And I'll tell you what I would say to parents in coaching, and I would always encourage no matter what it was, but if you're not talking to your kids about an issue, somebody else probably is. And it might not be the message you want them getting. And I know you see that firsthand. So thanks so much. We'll come back to this. We got to get out of here. We got to get you back to work, man. You're so anyway, we'll go to something a lot better here. Juliana, our Web Kids segment, she went over. We have the flashlight safari coming up over at Clyde Peelan's, and Jay went over to check it out. We'll go right to her.
Hello, I'm Juliana from Webb Kids. This week I'm over here at Clyde Peeling's Reptile Land, and usually around Halloween they have a flashlight safari, so we're going to go inside and get a preview. I'm in the program center and I'm about to show you guys 3 great animals. Hello, I'm Juliana.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is Darwin. He's our great horned owl.
Wow, he's big.
Yes, and you can find him all over the Americas and up into Canada. And here locally, this is actually our biggest owl species. When he flies at night, you don't even know he's flying right over your head because of his feathers are serrated at the wingtips. He also has those giant eyes that he's staring at you with right now, and they are capable of seeing 50 to 100 times better than you and I. And if that wasn't cool enough, Darwin can rotate his head almost 270 degrees.
Wow. Can he hurt humans?
Yes, he can. He has those giant talons or claws, which is why I'm wearing this thick leather glove. Plus he has that big, powerful, sharp beak. And both of these are instruments that he uses to catch his dinner at night.
Okay. Oh, he's very fascinating. He's kind of scary.
Kind of scary. Well, how about I just give you one kind of gross fact about him? That will make you less nervous. He actually throws up 7 hours after he consumes a meal, and what comes up is an owl pellet. It's all the stuff his stomach cannot digest.
It's cool. Oh, he has big eyes.
He does. All the better to see you with at night.
Well, that was the great horned owl.
Up next is going to be Leslie with a really, really cute mammal for you.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hi, I'm Juliana.
I'm Leslie, and this is Rodney. This is a kinkajou. He looks a lot like a monkey, but he's actually more closely related to raccoons than any sort of monkey. Even though he has this really cool prehensile tail that he's holding on with, he can use that to swing through the trees.
What's like his best ability?
Well, he can see really well at night. You can see how big his eyes are compared to his head size, and he doesn't have any fur on the bottoms of his feet, so he can feel his way in the darkness. He lives in the rainforests of Central and South America, and one of his favorite things to eat is fruit. He loves grapes, and he'll also stick his fuzzy little face into flowers, and he'll lap up nectar using a really, really long tongue. Sometimes he likes to try to clean our ears with that tongue. It's very gross. And he can get pollen on his face, and he helps to pollinate the flowers in the rainforest.
He kind of looks like a ferret.
He kind of does, doesn't he? He has that cute, fuzzy little face.
Is he harmful to humans?
Well, we don't recommend him as a pet, and that's because he does have very sharp teeth and claws that helps to defend himself against predators, and because he's nocturnal, when you're trying to sleep, he's awake during that time, and he howls and screams all night long, so the chance of you ever getting a good night's sleep, never again.
What's his main food?
His main food is fruit and nectar. Sometimes he'll eat a little bit of protein, like if he sees a bug crawling around that he looks at and goes, that's kind of tasty. But for the most part, it's all about fruit and nectar for him.
He's cute.
He is very cute.
That was the kinkajou.
And next up is going to be Jake with our Western Diamondback.
And we're back, and I think we have a snake, and he looks pretty scary.
Aw, you sweetheart. All right, so this big guy is a western diamondback rattlesnake. You're not going to find a big snake like this here in Pennsylvania. These guys are found a little bit more southern and western United States. So.
What's his main food in the wild?
He loves rodents. He's going to eat rats, mice, maybe some baby rabbits, things like that. Nice fuzzy things is what he looks after. So.
What's his biggest predator?
So when they're small, when they're little babies, they've got predators like birds and things like that. Other snakes will eat him, will eat smaller versions of snakes. But when he gets to be this size, he's pretty much top dog. Does not have much to worry about.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's really scary. He's intimidating.
He's a little big, but he's actually pretty good. So he's looking around, he's checking things out. You can kind of look, he's moving and moseying. He's flicking that tongue out, trying to find what's going on and smelling things that are around him. They don't really have the best of eyesight, and so they perceive their world through that sense of smell, and so that tongue is constantly on the move looking for a nice, tasty meal.
Do you guys have any other kind of species?
We have a couple different kinds of rattlesnake species here at Reptile Land. We have eastern and western diamondback rattlesnakes. We've got timber rattlesnakes. But here in Pennsylvania, we just have the timber rattlesnake, so a little bit smaller than these guys. So.
I'm back with Kaylin, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about the flashlight safari.
Thanks. So Flashlight Safari is a fun evening event we have for families. We've had it for several years, but this year it's on October 21st and 22nd. It's from 6 to 9 at night. And it's a chance for kids to come and see the zoo at night, take a tour with just a flashlight and see what our nocturnal animals are up to. They also get to see a special show in here at the program center. You got to see 3 of the animals here today, but there's several more that people are able to see. We usually have some type of Halloween activity and a sweet treat for kids to take home. Tickets are on sale now, so we encourage everyone to get their tickets in advance. You can also get them at the door, but it's just going to be a really fun weekend.
Well, thank you for having us at Reptile Land. We're going to go back to Jimmy and Steph. Peace.
And we're back from another great interview with Juliana, and holy smokes, that was quite the rattlesnake.
Yeah, that was interesting, and the big horned owl. I think Juliana was a little concerned. I think she seemed more concerned about the owl than the rattlesnake. But then the rattlesnake was.
Oh, she's just little.
And our cameraman did a great job getting right in there on it.
Absolutely.
But
it's so nice to have her back.
She does a wonderful job, and it's so great to go over and see Clyde the Glide and his good people over there, and what great work they do. And boy, if I could do stuff like that every week. So
it would certainly make our week more interesting.
Absolutely. So anything you got in closing?
I think that's about it.
Well, another good episode.
Another great episode.
Great job. And hey, there's been a lot of things going on. We had our presidential debate. We have some more shooting. I don't even want to talk about all that stuff. All I want to say is love each other out there. Be safe out there, and God bless America.